This week, I'm going to give you guys my opinion about the Tory Lanez album that just dropped. LeBron James and Stephen A. Smith going at it. And Jermaine Dupri is probably one of the most tone-deaf executives I've ever seen in my life. Let's talk about it.
The STEM Society.
Welcome back to the STEM Society. My name is Cole Jackson. This is episode 90. We're still on the road to 1,000. We are trying to get to 1,000 subs by the end of March. If you are part of the society, share this with people, man. If you enjoy this content, if you enjoy real hip-hop commentary about what's going on in music and what's going on in the news, so on and so forth, share this with somebody. Let people know you're a part of the society. Be a part of the society and grow this thing, man. I am super excited to see what comes by the end of March. I have a lot of content that's about to be coming out on YouTube, so please be patient. This is going to be a pretty good month. A lot of stuff is going on in the news. I'm going to cover a few things. I do have a music critique this week, just one for today. I had to get this out because I listened to this album. So let's get into new music first.
New releases.
Tory Lanez released his newest album, Peterson, 20 tracks, an hour and a half long. This is a mess. It's a mess. It's a mess. There are people on the internet that are saying this is 10 out of 10, and I think that has a lot to do with the Free Tory movement more than what's actually on the album. Let me start with the good side of things. Tory Lanez covered a lot of bases on here. He has inspirational records like Free Me and Guide Me Through the Storm. Songs like that on here that makes a lot of sense. Like he's trying to show, hey man, I'm making it through. This is inspiration. I'm trying to make sure I get through here. Then he has shit like Verdict Day, Lawyer Fees. Is it the Nine Side and Amnest? I don't know how to pronounce the word because I got a public school education. But he has shit like that trying to let people know how the system is against him. I understand that. Then we get records like Charlie Rowe and Gangland. I'll just pick those two songs where he's talking about how rough it is and what he's going through in jail life and how he's got to be tough, which I'll be honest with you, Tory, I love you, brother, but you ain't doing the shit that you saying in them songs about not running from no fades and all this other shit in prison, bro. I just don't. I have to see it to believe it. But he's covering a lot of bases on this album, and I like the fact that he decided to make sure he covered everything for each type of fan. Because if you listen to Tory Lanez, you either are a fan of like the Chicks tapes, Tory Lanez, or the New Toronto Tory Lanez, or those types of bags that he tends to get in because he's a super talented guy. So I like the fact that he did that. On top of the sound that the way he sounds pretty good for somebody who's doing this through a jail phone. Like I think him being able to do what he did through a jail phone, phenomenal. Figured out a way to sound really good. There's a few tracks on here where you can tell that there's jail going on, and that's to happen when you're making an album from jail. Here's where I have a problem. This album and the arrangement is a mess. These songs are not in any real particular order. There's a few of them that are because they're a continuation of the previous song. So I understand some of that shit too. But the way you jump from inspirational to a record about being in prison and having to fight for your life is terrible. I don't know who arranged this album. I don't know who put this shit together. But that shit is really bad. It's just, it makes it very hard to go through an album with 20 tracks when the arrangement is just so all over the place. That's for me. Typically when I listen to a Tory Lanez album, he's very crisp. He's precise in how the songs flow into each other. Like you get that. And I don't know who you put in charge to arrange this album, but they did a fucking shitty job at doing it. It just is horrible the way these songs go into each other sometimes. And it just makes it a rough listen. Another thing is 20 tracks is a lot. 20 songs, and he has a few interludes between some of these songs, but 20 songs, bro, is just too much for me from a nigga that's in prison. Like, I know you got a lot to get off your chest, and I know you want to tell everybody your story, but 20 songs is just a lot, bro. Like, you could have cut this down to like a good 14 tracks could have done it for me. And I guess it's because of the arrangement that it makes it so hard for me to want to listen through it all the way through. I went through the album twice, and I do want to listen to it a third time because he's getting some shit off on here. But man, the way this shit is arranged makes it so hard to go through. It's just, I can't, I can't fucking do it, man. I'm gonna have to pick and choose songs off of this shit and put it on a playlist and kind of make my own version of Peterson because it's a mess. Some of the choices that was made in production too, man. I don't know who really was producing this album for you, but some of the flips that they decided to do, which is a Tory Lanez staple, were really bad, and some of the production was just shit, man. Like, it just didn't sound good against what you were saying. And I know, again, I'm trying to get this album grace because I know the man is doing this from a jail cell, and I know he's doing this through a jail phone, and he doesn't have the complete control that he usually does when it comes to his albums. But I know it's a nigga on the outside that knows how to put your shit together, and they would have did a way better job than what this shit is. I think it's the overall, the bottom line for me is, I think there's a good album in here somewhere. I just don't know how to arrange the songs to make it a good album. Like, I think when people say this is a 10 out of 10, again, they're going off of the free Tory movement and trying to say, man, this man trying to tell his truth, when they're not really listening to the music or understanding how this shit is arranged in a very improper manner. So that's my biggest gripe, man. Bottom line, it's okay. I will be listening to it again, but I'm going to have my own picks, and I'll just make my own album from this because I'm not putting all 20 of them tracks on the shit that I'm making. I'm not rearranging 20 tracks on here to make this shit listenable.
Music news.
I'm starting to show off today with some non-music shit. Believe it or not, I do like stuff outside of music. Like this whole situation with StephenASmith and LeBron James. Now, if you guys haven't seen the video, LeBron James pulled up on StephenASmith to let him know he ain't playing with this nigga no more. I'm done talking. I need to check you. The whole situation between him and LeBron was about some of the things that StephenASmith had said about Bronny. And the word on the internet is a bit interesting because there's a lot of people who feel like LeBron had no right to do it. Now, I am a person who loves basketball. I'm a basketball fan. I do watch First Take. I do understand the context of how things went down. There was something that StephenASmith said that really triggered me or made me think about some stuff. He was on First Take and he was discussing the whole situation. Let me play this snippet for you guys real quick.
I say I think he thought he heard. He clearly took exception to some of the things that he heard me say, and he confronted me about it. For the record, his agent and friend, Rich Paul, has my number. Maverick Carter, who works under him, has my number. LeBron James knows how to get in contact with me if he wanted to. He never called, because had he called and wanted to talk to me, I would have accepted that call. Had he wanted to see me, I would have flown out and I would have seen him and I would have had a conversation man to man. But that is not what he elected to do. Instead, he elected to confront me while I was sitting courtside. Ari Emanuel, the head of William Morris Endeavor, one of the agencies that represents me, along with Larry David, was sitting courtside. I was with them for the game.
I stopped it right there because that was a very interesting thing that he said. Now, he said that Rich Paul has his number, Maverick Carter has his number. These people have StephenASmith's number, and he could have gotten in touch with him that way. But I think there was a situation previously where he had a disagreement with LeBron James, and LeBron reached out to him via Maverick Carter or via Rich Paul. And if I'm not mistaken, he exposed that whole, not the whole what was said, but he exposed that was done on First Take. And let me be completely honest with you guys. Stephen A is a very classy and smart man, probably the king of sports talk media right now. Just signed a 5-year deal for $100 million. You got your paper boy. I love that shit. You did what you had to do to get your money. But I think that's a part of the problem too. When people come back to Stephen A about a lot of the things that he says or does on First Take, which has been the #1 show for 13 years. He's very braggadocious about it, and you have every right to do that, my friend. But you are one of the people who get into your character of, you don't want to make an enemy out of me. When you was going back and forth with Kevin Durant, you don't want to make an enemy out of me. I know things. I've covered the league for 30 plus years, 40 plus years. All of this shit that he keeps saying. And you're also the man who's famously for saying, hey, any of these people want to talk to me, I ain't hard to find. I'm not hard to find. Isn't that you too? I hate the fact that Stephen A. Smith comes forward like he just did in that clip, saying the things that he says, and now he's just like, well, you could have called. You got to pick your poison, my friend, because a lot of times when you poke your chest out, somebody's bound to punch you in it. I think LeBron had every right to check him about his son. And I'm saying that because LeBron James gave his son a job in the family business. The family business is basketball. LeBron James has been playing basketball for 22 years. And he said, my son plays, and why not give him a job? Now, is he good at his job? Some people would say no. Some people would say no. But did he get a job at the company that his dad works at? Well, yeah, that's what you're supposed to do. Stephen A has been so overly critical about this dude, about Bronny getting a job and playing in the fucking NBA. It's terrible. Now, he would say that he was not being critical of Bronny. He was being critical of LeBron putting Bronny in this situation. Why don't you just say what you have to say and let it go? It would be different if you didn't harp on it a few times, because you've harped on this situation more than once. And I understand why you do it. See, a lot of people don't really understand it. You don't be #1 by talking about the Cavaliers or you're talking about the Memphis Grizzlies. You're #1 because you talk about the same shit on a regular basis. LeBron James, Dallas Cowboys, and the Lakers. And I get it. You have to do what's trending. You have to do what brings people to your show. But you also need to make sure that when you say this shit and when you start talking about people's kids, shit happens. You're going to get checked. And I think that LeBron James had every right to check him. Sometimes you got to check a nigga. Even though you sit up here and say, well, he could have called me, he threw his managers, and I would have flew out to him. No. Sometimes the best way to check a nigga's temperature is to look at him eye to eye in front of everybody and see what you gonna do. And you did exactly what you were supposed to do. Y'all had a conversation, you sat down, and LeBron James went about his way. And things are either going to change or get worse. Because when somebody confronts you like that, man to man, face to face, and tells you what's on their mind and then lets you know we ain't having this no more, you got two options. You can either say, hey, I get it, we're good, no problem, or you can poke the bear. I personally would not poke LeBron James the bear, because I'm not saying LeBron will get physical, but I know LeBron James has enough clout and enough power to shut a lot of your shit down. These games that you playing with some of these NBA players are not the best, and they're not cool. And you need to understand that this persona that you put on sometimes when it comes to not messing around with me, the shit that you say comes back at you, and it's going to it ain't always the nicest thing in the world. And there are times when you sit up here and you want people to bow down to you and you want people to be to cower because you know these secrets. Bruh, sometimes a good old fashioned ass whooping is necessary for a lot of you people who want to poke your chest out. I have no problem with LeBron James checking him. I think it was the right thing to do. I think there's a lot of other NBA players who wanted to do that, but just didn't have the cachet. And for a lot of people, too, they feel like, well, Bronny looks weak in this situation. Well, I beg to differ. Bronny doesn't have the cachet. He's a rookie in the league. He's a young man. I think Bronny's like 20. I think he's 20, 21. If he would have rolled up on Stephen A like that, bruh, y'all would have said this YN is tripping. Y'all would have went in on him and said he ain't got no respect for his elders. He shouldn't be talking to Stephen A like that. A lot of people would have been talking down about Bronny doing that. And I think LeBron James doing it just lets him know, I'm not playing with you no more. It ain't a game. Stop talking about my son. My son is trying to make it in this league, and you're downplaying him. And I think that he had every right to do it. I had every right to do it. I'm not a father. I don't have kids. But if I was a father and I had somebody who was talking real reckless at the mouth, and I've already warned him once, the second time you got to see me. Second time we got to have a conversation. That's just all it is to it. I really respect the fact that LeBron James did something like this. I'm not saying that anything physical should have happened, but sometimes that face to face, when you see a nigga that's mad and you know he's serious, sometimes you need that to be able to say, let me back and just kind of rethink this whole situation and rethink what I'm going to do. I don't think a conversation with you two sitting in a mansion out overlooking a beautiful ocean view would help the situation at all. I don't think you would have took it seriously. I don't think you would have came back and put that on your show and would have mocked it. I guarantee you, because at the end of the day, these talking heads do the same thing, no matter if it's him, Joe Budden, academics. They do things for ratings, for views, for likes, and for clicks. Is it always the moral way of going about doing it? Hell no. A lot of these motherfuckers do whatever they want to do. They don't get any repercussions because the networks are going to be okay with it and they're going to get paid regardless. So yeah, a lot of the stuff that they do be on some slick shit, but you always reap what you sow. You always reap what you sow. So I think for a lot of people who think that LeBron was wrong, y'all need to rethink that and think about some of the stuff that these people be saying about these athletes or these artists or whatever the case may be. And if you man enough to say it behind a microphone, be man enough to say it to their face. That's all it is to it. And I'm not saying Stephen A wouldn't have, but I understand that I understand the situation and where they was. He didn't want to be that guy. I think he just knew what it is. It was a respect thing, and he went on about his business. I loved it. I thought it was great. I wish more athletes would do that kind of shit. How do y'all feel? Do y'all think LeBron was wrong for checking Stephen A at a Knicks game? Or do you think it was a situation where he could have handled it privately? So Twitter got me pissed this week because Jermaine Dupri put out one of the most tone-deaf tweets I've ever seen in my life. Check this out. I'm a little lost. Can somebody tell me what the goal of being an independent artist is today? Because of all the things people are chasing is shit major artists do. What's the thing that indie artists do that make it special? Let me give you a little bit of history about me. I started a website called BYNK Radio 10 years ago when I was staying in Birmingham, Alabama. It was a radio station and a website to celebrate independent artists. What I did was I actually started something. I started a radio station that was licensed where I could actually play independent artists and also play major artists or mainstream artists. And they could get rotation, they could get royalties, they could get all that kind of stuff to help their career and to help them be pushed and let people know that they are just as good as the major artists. That has been something I've championed for the last 10 years. I think it's important to be an independent artist because you have to have control over your art. You have to have control over what you create. You should get paid what you're worth when you're an independent artist. I have championed that. The website that I created gave people, again, digital spins, royalties, interviews. I have been interviewing independent artists for a very long time. That was my goal. My mission in life was to make sure independent artists had a platform to be able to move forward and to be able to be seen and be heard. And when I see tone-deaf tweets like that, it pissed me off because the same person that the same majors that he's talking about are leaving and they're becoming independent artists. Prime example, because I tweeted him back And I gave him an example. Usher. Usher's last album was an independent release. Usher left RCA to drop an album. Coming Home was an independent album, and I think it was nominated for a Grammy. There's clearly something here on the side of the independents that these major artists are missing. In a lot of cases, now I'm just speaking, I have to speak freely on this one. In a lot of cases, artists don't have back catalogs, they lose their publishing, and in a lot of cases, they lose their intellectual property. They have nothing. Majors strip them of their soul. And when I see executives, because JD is an executive now, when I see those types of tweets, it pisses me off because you've been in enough rooms to know that that kind of shit happens to artists all the time. We've told artists that being on a major is a good thing. They're going to push I'm not going to say they're going to push the button, but they give these people advances and they're going to help them with promotions and stuff like that. When in all truth, all they're doing is stripping your soul and stripping your art. Artists don't ever get the opportunity. I'm going to say ever. Artists lose the opportunity to drop when they want to, make the kind of albums that they want to, even tour the way they want to when they sign with a major. You want to know why? Majors are giving out loans. They're not paying anybody. You don't even get 100% of your music. You don't get 100% of your publishing. You don't get 100% of what you create. Everything is a bust down. And if they advance you an amount of money and you have to recruit 2 times that much, when you recoup it, it's got to be twice or maybe triple, and then you can make money. It pissed me off because people like him don't take the opportunities to help independent artists come up. You've been in the game for a while, JD. You know these things. Why would you tweet that? Why would you put something so tone deaf out there? You should be getting more people, trying to make more people be independent. Aren't you the type? Aren't you the person that says you got to own some shit? People always sit up here and wave this flag about owning your own shit. Own something. Would you want to own 100% of nothing or 1% of something or whatever the fuck y'all niggas be saying? When you know in your heart of hearts and in the rooms that you've been in, these corporations strip everything from you when you're an artist, even your creativity, because then you're a slave to having to do what the label tells you to do, or you are a slave of making albums and they're putting your shit on the shelf until they feel like the time is right for your shit to drop. Everybody doesn't. It's only a few artists out here who have the control to be able to move around the way they want to move around. And a lot of them don't really have as much control as you think they do. It's just a facade because they're earning money on some other kind of platform, or their brand deals are very good, or whatever the case may be. But when you're independent, you get to do what you want to do. Is it a lot of work when it comes to being independent? Yes. Talk to any independent artist and they'll tell you it's a lot of hard work. You know what was cool? I like the fact that people like Mickey Fax, Reason had something to say, Ransom, all of these people who are independent now most definitely had an opinion about this. And they were giving out a lot of game. And there was a lot of tweets that was just telling people what freedom feels like. Because that's what a lot of people get when you're independent. You get freedom, you get paid, and you get to do things in a matter of how it works better for you than what it works for the major. Executives like him, man, should sit their fuck down and read the damn room sometimes. Because there's no way in hell I would tell anybody to sign a major if they didn't have to. There's some cases where people just don't get it and they need that structure and they need that one side of things to be able to kind of get their music out there. Some people just have bad people on their team and they need a major to help build their team. But if you can avoid being on a major, do that shit. Nobody's out here telling y'all how much better it is. The only person I know that goes from podcast to podcast to give you guys a really good understanding about being independent is Lil Russell. And I know Lil Russell's blueprint won't work for everybody, but you can pick and choose some things out of what he's done and actually give a really great come up off of some of the things that he's done to be successful. And you got to know what your level of success is in you. Like what you see as a success is what you see as a success. Somebody else's success can't be yours. Whatever you feel like, even if it's just being able to pay your bills off of your music every month, if that's a success to you, then you've hit it, my nigga. But executives like Jermaine Dupri and the shit that he says and does, because he does these types of tweets every 3 months. It seems like every quarter he has some dumbass tweet that he wants to put out there to kind of shake the room or make people think about things. And it's like, you know better. You know better. And it's so many major artists that are trying to get to the independent side of things. And there's been a lot of major artists who've hit the independent side of things. It's like, hey, this is hard. I can't do this shit. Y'all got to pay for what? Y'all got to do what? Some of these people have been so pampered throughout their whole career, and then when they finally get their independence, they lose their mind because they don't even know how to do it. They've never learned the game. They've just been a pawn in the whole situation. I'm always championing being independent because once you own something, you can do with it what you please and nobody can control you. And I want more artists to be independent because you just get a chance to be you. Like you get a chance to do what you feel like is best for you and your music and your art. I would really like to sit down with JD and kind of pick his brain about why he feels like it might be better to be on a major label, or why he think it's better to be that. Like again, he said what the independent artists are chasing is what major artists do. You haven't talked to people like Bootsy, or you haven't talked to people like Ransom, who's actually making a ton of money independently. There's a lot of artists that he needs to sit down and talk to, and they can most definitely give him game about what independence look like and how it feels to be able to move the way they want to move. I get mad when I see shit like that, and it just pisses me the fuck off. And it grinded my gears, and I got a lot of I like the fact that I tweeted him back, of course, and I had a little bit of push back and forth with somebody else, but you know, you have to get your point across to people like that. So JD, I would love for JD to come sit with me in London and have a conversation about music and about being independent and what it means to be independent. But if you guys haven't taken a look at that tweet, go look at that tweet and look at some of the responses that he got, because it's clear that people are looking at the independent side of things than they are fucking with this major label bullshit. If you're an artist, I beg you to stay independent. Figure that shit the fuck out. Don't sit up here and think you got to go to a major to be somebody or for your music to hit. It's going to be a lot more hard work than what it would be if you were on a major, but I promise you, the fulfillment of being able to own your stuff, to be able to get paid what you should be getting from your art is way better than sitting up here being on a slave ship, being told that your album's not good enough to be out there because it just ain't a part of the wave. Figure out how you can make it as an independent artist and do that shit, because it's worth more than selling your soul to a major and being under the thumb of a boss that don't give a fuck about you. I don't have nothing else for you guys. Thank you for joining me for another episode of the STEM Society. Please share this. Please grow this. We would love to hit 1,000 subscribers by the end of March, and we can only do that with you guys. So I appreciate everybody who supported me so far. And if you got any questions, or if you have any topics that you want me to cover, put it in the comments and let me know what it is. All right. I'm going to catch you guys on the other side of things. Take care of yourself. Peace out.
Thank you for joining the STEM Society.